Yeah,
Okay.
just hold it in the other way.
This way?
Yeah.
Okay.
And in the middle, if you want to take a picture, you can take a picture
Oh.
over there too.
Okay, I'll take a picture of certain things you want me to take a picture of.
So, so ready?
Yep.
Yep. So here, this is a
Heart.
heart. This is a heart. Look at that. Isn't it beautiful? Yes. What's the size of your heart?
As we said.
Closed fist, right? Everybody's closed fist. Some is smaller, some larger. That's the same for your body too, right? So that's not a big deal. It's doing the job for that body, right? So here, we have a sheep heart, and we want to dissect it, and later he will be asked in your practical exam, right? So we have to know everything about that. To review all the things that you have in the list, first we need to go from the outside of the heart and recognize the structure that we can see from the outside. Then we cut it, and then we go to see inside of the heart, right? So the best key for the heart and recognize the structures, the clue for the outside is to recognize anterior of the heart from posterior of the heart, right? So look at all the holes that you have in hand and tell me which side is anterior, which side is posterior. You see that one side is like this, the other side is like this, right? Tell me which side is anterior, which side is posterior, and what is your reasoning? Why do you call one side anterior, the other side posterior, right? Tell me, what do you think?
The vessels are posterior.
Uh-huh. Good. So what about you?
This.
That is posterior. Why?
Anterior.
Anterior. Why?
Because the posterior here they have more connection.
Mm-hmm. So as you notice, you see that one side. So to recognize that one, we go over the sulcus that we have, the sulci, right? One of them, and well, how do we recognize the sulci?
Fat.
By the fat that we have. Each sulci is covered with the fat, and it has blood vessels of the heart that we call them coronary vessels, and also each sulcus shows the border between at least two chambers of the heart, right? So you have one here, as you see, you have one here, and you have one other one that you see, it goes all around, all the way here, all around, like a crown. What do we call this one? Which sulcus? Coronary sulcus. So this one is coronary sulcus. It separates the two atria on the top from the two ventricle on the bottom, right? So that's a coronary sulcus. So when you recognize this one, you already know the location of the two atria and the two ventricles, right? Now to separate the two ventricles, you have one sulcus here that is between the ventricles. We call them interventricular sulcus, right? You have it one on the anterior side, anterior interventricular sulcus, the other one on the posterior side, posterior interventricular sulcus. So if you notice here, when you look from this side, this coronary sulcus is low on this side, and you see some vessels coming out here. Compared to this side, that the coronary sulcus is high, and you just see less vessels in this side, right? And you have anterior, but after you recognize which side anterior and posterior, you can name this anterior or posterior, right? So the clue is just here, all about these vessels that are coming out of the heart, or in other words, they are connecting. Some of them are bringing the blood out, some of them are bringing the blood inside of the heart, right? When a vessel brings the blood out of the heart, we call it
Artery.
When the vessel brings the blood inside of the heart, we call it vein, right? Now, when you look at here, you see a big vessel here, this one, right? When you go and look into that, you can separate it a little bit. Oh, I forgot about these dissection tools to explain to us. This is a probe that you using mostly for the pointing, finding, go through the holes and all those things. And you have the scalpel. This is a scalpel that has a blade and a handle here. But just make sure you are working with the scalpel. These blades are very sharp or can be very sharp, right? So make sure that you are cautious about using these ones, and specifically the ones that you do not have it in hand, right? You cannot know exactly what the other person that has this blade in hand is going to do, right? So whatever you are going to do, put your finger, point at something, or whatever you want to point at, just make sure that the other person that have this one in hand knows that where the other finger of yours is going, right? So be very careful about that ones, right? So you can use this one to just separate these vessels from each other so that we can see them better. So we just separate some fat and
So much fat.
as you see, we not need much of the knife or scalpel. Just clean them up better by taking these fats away.
Oh man. A lot of that. Some in between.
Okay, this is better now, right? Now you see one vessel here. If you follow that simply by your finger or by the probe, whichever is easier. This one is kind of long, so I just use the probe here, right? And even you can see the direction of the vessel here, right? So this vessel is coming out of this chamber. This side is anterior side of the heart, the one that this coronary sulcus is higher, and you see less of the vessel here compared to this side, that you see the coronary sulcus is lower and you see more of the vessels, and also you see the two atria better on this side. When you look at this side, you don't see much of the atria here because they are located toward the base of the heart, to the superior part of the heart, and they go mostly toward the posterior side, right? So this one is anterior interventricular sulcus. Therefore, this is, which chamber is this one?
The right ventricle.
Right ventricle. When you are looking at the heart from the anterior of that heart, your right side is left side, your left side is its right side, right? So this is the right ventricle, this is the left ventricle. This is slightly different from the human heart. You remember, in human heart is slightly located like this in the body. So most of the anterior is mostly right ventricle. And from the left ventricle, you see only a bit of that. The rest of that is on the posterior. But you see, sheep heart is a little bit different, but still it has all the parts similar, right? So that is the right ventricle, that this vessel is coming out of that. Which vessel it should be?
Superior oh no, coming out of
Pulmonary trunk.
Pulmonary artery.
Pulmonary trunk, right? Pulmonary trunk, that is an artery, right? Pulmonary trunk, that's this one. As you see, pulmonary trunk is the most anterior vessel that you see here. So the most anterior vessel is pulmonary trunk that is coming out of the right ventricle. So far so good? Right? Now behind this pulmonary trunk, you see this another artery. What it should be?
Aorta.
Aorta. When you put this probe inside and you continue that, you see that it's coming out of the left ventricle, right? And you can see the direction of that here, right? It's coming out of the left ventricle. That is the aorta. Now for the aorta, first we have ascending part that is deep over there. If we continue and dig more, you would be able to see that, but we don't want to cut them all completely separate. So after ascending, you have arch of the aorta, and then if it was continuing, you could see the descending aorta. But it has been cut here, right? This is the arch of the aorta, this one, as you see here, have been cut here. So you have only one branch from the arch of the aorta that you see here. What is the first branch on the arch of the aorta?
Brachiocephalic.
Brachiocephalic
Artery.
trunk. Brachiocephalic trunk, this one, right? So here you see that this is arch of the aorta that have been cut here. If it hadn't been cut, you could see the other two branches of that too, right? Sometimes you may have in some of the hearts they have been cut here further, so you may see the other branches. But here you have only one branch of that. This one that goes toward the up. It goes toward the head and neck on the right side, right? This is brachiocephalic trunk. This is aortic arch. Good? Right? So as you see, from the anterior of the heart, we have arteries that coming out of the ventricles and bringing the blood out, right? The other things that you see from this anterior side, these are these heart. What do we call this?
Auricles.
Auricle. This is the auricle of the left atrium, right?
Too much fat.
Too much
Yeah,
fat.
We can't see anything
here's
on
one
ours.
right here. That's,
So
Oh, yeah,
that's
we
one right
have
there.
it. And this is the auricle of the right atrium, right?
It's here. It's just covered in fat.
So that was all the thing you see from the anterior side. Any question regarding the anterior side? Right? And also you see the apex, that as you see is a little bit different, like this should be in humans like this, right? So going toward the posterior side. On the posterior side, as you see the coronary sulcus is a little bit lower. You see the atria here and the vessels that are getting into the atria. Which vessels generally are going into the atria? Arteries or veins?
Veins.
Veins, right? Veins are bringing the blood back toward the heart, right? Now for the posterior side, this one was the coronary sulcus, right? What is this one?
Posterior interventricular.
Posterior
Interventricular.
interventricular sulcus,
Sulcus.
right? So between these two ventricles, that this sulcus is between them. You have one ventricle here, one ventricle here. What is this one?
Right
Right.
ventricle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody agrees? This is the right ventricle, the same as your body. You're looking at the back of somebody's, right? So this is the sheep is somebody too, right? So this is the right ventricle, this is the left ventricle. So if you consider this one is in mind and recognize the anterior and posterior, right and left, you won't be lost, right? So you have the right ventricle, left ventricle, interventricular sulcus, coronary sulcus, and above that you have the two atria. Which side is the right atrium? This side, one, or this side, two?
One.
One, because it's about the right ventricle, right? Right ventricle, right atrium. Left ventricle, about that left atrium, right? So over here, as you said, we have lots of fat here. I'm gonna push this fat away so that you can see the wall of the atrium at least a little bit. This sheep has been very lazy. Hasn't done much exercise. They provide grass for him or her, and
It's just, there's a lot. There's a lot of fat.
Right.
We can see the outside wall.
So here, so you saw the auricle. This is auricle of the right atrium, auricle of the left atrium. Then If I open it, you see the cavity of the right atrium here. Can get closer. Cavity of the right atrium, and this one, the cavity of the left atrium, right? Now, we said that we had this pulmonary trunk here. Then we had aorta, aortic arch, and this first branch brachiocephalic trunk here. Now, for the atria, directly to the atria, we have two vessels that are going toward the right atrium, two veins. Remember, to the atria, only the veins are going, right? To the posterior, we have vein. To the anterior, we have arteries, right? So, which vessels are going into the right atrium? Vena cava. Which vena cava?
Superior.
and inferior.
Both of them?
Just the superior.
Just superior?
I thought both of them.
But you don't
Inferior
s-
too?
You don't see the
They
inferior.
both go. But I
No,
don't-
here use your knowledge first, right? To the right atrium, which veins are going?
Superior and inferior.
And
vena
when you
cava.
have a knowledge, don't doubt it. Okay? Superior and inferior, both of them are going into the right atrium, right? They bring the blood from the system, the whole system of the body, right? So this is the direction that the superior vena cava is getting into the right atrium from here, right? So this is the opening of the superior vena cava here. Have been cut the rest of that here, but this is the opening of that superior vena cava. Now search and see if you can find the inferior vena cava. You can use your
This is the
fingers.
superior, yeah.
When
It's
you
like
put
that
your
version.
finger into this cavity, this is the right atrium, and remember, you can open the auricle here. You see that how the auricle can get separated, both sides of the auricle, and can accommodate more blood when it is needed, right? So go around and search if you can find other opening here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find it?
Yeah.
Yeah? Where is it? Exactly. That one. Do you see that? Could you find it?
Are we covered in that or? Comfortable?
We might find where we need to.
This is posterior. Oh, yeah, I agree.
The
So
other
did you find
other
it?
way. So
No?
if you go this
So
way.
put your finger inside and go around that where your finger can come out. That's it.
blocked.
Right?
This would be inferior.
Yes. So as you see, this is the superior vena
Next, we
cava.
go into the.
Pay attention, please. This is the superior vena cava coming to this chamber, right? Right atrium. Then, if you continue that from this other side, you have another opening from here that goes to the same chamber from different directions, right? So this is the, what is it? Inferior vena cava opening, right? Into the right atrium, right? So any question regarding the right atrium and the two vena cava that are going
We
into
haven't
that?
found
No?
the inferior one yet.
And pay attention to the direction that I put the probe inside that.
Yeah,
This
true.
one is going toward the right atrium, right? This one also is going toward the right atrium. This is superior vena cava, that one was inferior vena cava, right?
That's
Any
the-
question about the right atrium?
We're just having a hard
You
time
couldn't find
finding
it?
our.
Give it to me, I'm sure. So, you found the right
Yeah, we
atrium,
found
right?
it.
So put your finger inside and
Try to find it.
you see this one?
Yeah.
Just to make our own
Helping.
behavior.
Yeah. Here you go.
have been cut over that. That is this one. Do you see this shape?
Yeah, where there's like a little
Yeah,
groove right
you have the
there.
lower part of that. The upper part over that have been cut because they have cut all these upper part of the atrium, right? So it depends on some of the hearts you have the whole of the atrium, and some of them have been cut lowered, right? But you still from here you can see that it has been a vessel here. You see that? The same way. So any question regarding the right side? No? The same way is for the left atrium, right? How many vessels are going to the left atrium?
2.
Left. One.
What about 3
3.
or 4?
Maybe it's just
I would
one.
say 4.
4.
It's 2 from each side, right?
So it will
there,
become-
yeah.
It will
Yeah,
become
4.
2 from each side. Will become 4, right?
Yeah.
So we have 4 vessels that are going toward the left atrium. Are they artery or vein?
There,
Vein.
veins.
Which vein?
Pulmonary.
Pulmonary vein. So 4 pulmonary vein all are going to the left atrium, right? 2 from the right side, 2 from the left side, but all of them goes to the left atrium. Pay attention, not to the right atrium and left atrium. All 4 ones are going toward the left atrium. And most of the time in these hearts, all have been cut. If you are very lucky, we see just an impression like the one that we saw here, right? We would see all those impressions here. If we are not that lucky, you just see a big hole that is the whole left atrium, right? But still, I may ask you, which vessels are going into this chamber, right? Still, you should use your knowledge and what you see. This is the posterior side. This is talking about the atrium. This is the right atrium. This is the left atrium. To the left atrium, which vessels are going? Pulmonary veins, right? Good. So, like here, if I open it, oh, this has been the laziest one.
Yeah, our
So
shape
when
was
you look
super
at
lazy.
here, yeah, as I said, have been cut. Ah, oh, you see a coronary. You see the opening of the coronary?
Oh, cool.
You see
I
that?
just started the pulmonary vein.
And where does it go?
But it goes to
Oh,
Right.
I like it to take this one.
Oh,
You
take.
see this coronary sinus?
this has
Coronary sinus is the one that takes the veins of the coronary, right?
Cool.
And where does it go?
Into the right atrium.
To the right atrium. Very cool, right? So, as you see here, you have the impressions of all the locations of the pulmonaries. Has been 2 on this side, 2 on the other side, but you don't have the vessels themselves. Let's see what do we have here. So here you have you don't have the vessels, you have the whole chamber, just as the left atrium, that the 4 pulmonary veins going into that one, right? Good? And take a picture.
Okay.
So that was all the things about the outside of the heart. Now we want to dissect it and see the inside of the heart. Good?
Okay.
So you go toward the anterior side. You want to find the border between the ventricles, right? So what should we search for?
The anterior interventricle.
Interventricular sulcus, right? So this is the border between the left ventricle and the right ventricle, right? So we can go to the, let's say, right side of that, okay? We go toward the just parallel, close to this one, but not very close. We want to go, or maybe go to the left side. To the left side, right? Go about like half an inch toward the left side, and you go parallel to the interventricular sulcus, right? Just go deep, and you cut it, right?
Going all the
And
way
just continue parallel to the anterior and separate them completely. So in this way, now don't go all the way up, right? You want to keep the up side connected, right? So you're separating this part of the left ventricle from the rest that you have anterior interventricular sulcus, right? Now you go to the right side and you do one on the frontal or coronal plane. Watch your fingers and hands, right? So you go all the way on the side. Again, you keep the upper parts connected. And you separate this one. So now you have this side and this side, right?
Yeah.
So put it back together. This is the left side, this is the right side, right?
Yep.
So you finished?
Forget about where we want to cut this.
Everybody has done?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Just go straight over here, and then there was something that she did another.
What's the question?
We're just, is this a good place to cut it?
That's okay,
Yeah.
nothing is wrong,
Okay.
right? You can do it anyway, right? So you
What's
just can
the
continue over there and continue the same way. Just the same way that is continues on the same parallel to the anterior ones. Go away, right? Like this. You don't have to turn it around and continue with posterior intervention. Just go like this. So over here,
Yeah, I had to work hard with all this fat on.
now we said for the outside, the clue was what side is anterior, what side is posterior, then from each one, which one is the right side, which one is the left side, right? For the inside of the heart, we have another clue. When I put a question over there and I open these ones, don't go outside and search, oh, is this the anterior, or this is the right, or this is the left. No, you will remain clueless and it takes lots of time, right? For the inside, you have a better clue. You see everything in front of your eye, right? Don't search for the outside. Everything is inside you, right? It's here. So when you go inside, what do you see here? What do you see? What clue you see here when you look at inside? What are you searching inside? The valves. What about them?
One is gonna be a tray.
One is drag, one has three.
Number of cusps.
cusps, and one has
That's the worst clue that you can search for that. Because that's very hard. When the heart has dissected, now you can put them back together. Oh, is this 2 or this is 3? No. Don't search for that one.
Okay, muscle
No.
thickness maybe?
Yeah.
What?
Muscle
Yeah.
Muscle thickness. That is the clue. What about it?
It's gonna be thicker on the
ventricle
left.
side.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
On the left ventricle it's thicker. Right.
The left ventricle wall, free wall, is much thicker than the right ventricle. If I cut the left ventricle too, just the
The right ventricle.
frontal or coronal plane, like this one, right? We cut the left ventricle too to get it here.
Yeah, the right one.
Okay.
Along the, like kind of like the same as that. Even that little bit I think right here is actually a lot of fat.
Oh, yeah. You're right. You're right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Now,
That explains it.
when I open this one, look at this. This is what you see here, right? So I look in this lower part here, right? But just pay attention. I might put it like this in front of you, or I might put it like this in front of you, right? I shouldn't have to put it in an anatomical position exactly, right? So each side might be right or left, right? The clue is that you're searching for the thickness of the free wall. Pay attention. You have a wall here, a septum, that is between the two ventricles. That one is not a free wall. That one is very thick, but that's not a free wall. That is the septum. Which septum? Interventricular septum, between the two ventricles. What we are talking about is this free valve, the thickness of this valve, you see, compared to the thickness of this valve, right? You see the thickness is much different between the right side and the left side. And that's all things that you need to find, right? You open the things, the first thing that you search for, the thickness of the valve. This is thinner than this one. Therefore, you just go all the things backward, right? This is, what chamber is this one? I put a pin here and ask you what chamber it is this one? It is?
Right ventricle.
Everybody agrees? Right? Even agree? It is? Which chamber? Right ventricle. Right ventricle. What about this one?
Left.
Left, like if I put it here, right? Left ventricle. Now, you have a valve here. I ask you, name this valve. Are you searching for and counting the number of the cusps?
No.
No. How do you name it?
Bicuspid or mitral valve.
How? Why?
Because it's on the left.
Because that's on the left side, right? This is bicuspid valve. What about the one that you have it here?
Tricuspid.
Tricuspid valve, right? So if I put a probe pass through the bicuspid valve and get to the chamber above that, what do you call that chamber?
Left atrium.
Left atrium. If you pass through the tricuspid valve, get to the chamber, what do you call that chamber? Right atrium, right? So you see that everything is clear now, right? You don't need to go search around the outside. Oh, this was anterior, this is the right side, left side. Everything is in front of you, right? The other things, so you already know the chambers, right ventricle, left ventricle. You know the valves. You know that if you pass through the valve, get to the atrium. Now let's go over the structure of one valve. It's actually very good. Can you take a picture of that?
Yeah.
You can't see that
Okay,
one.
You
got
see?
it.
Very good. You see that? You see the valve? You see the tendon-like structures that are connected to that. What do we call them?
Chordae tendineae.
Chordae tendineae. You see the muscles that these chordae tendineae is attached to that. What do we call that muscle? Papillary muscles, right? You can see more papillary muscles on this side have been cut here, but on some of your cut, I'm sure that you got a good example of papillary muscles over there, right?
This one.
Look at this one.
Yeah, this one, you see? That's very big, good one. Yeah, you can take a picture of that. Very good. So what else do you need from the inside of the heart? That's it, right? So you have everything from the
That's the
outside.
papillary